I want to bring in Rina Shah. She's a political commentator and strategic consultant. Rina, there are literally thousands of pages of tax documents to sift through here. As everyone starts to go through them, what stood out to you the most?
You know, at this point, now that we have all these documents telling us, giving us a snapshot of just who the former president was financially, and is, frankly, because this is modern era documentation. It's 2015 onward. It's nothing before 2015. So there's a good sense that we'll get of where his money was, where bank accounts were. So far, the biggest thing that's sticking out to me is that he did have bank accounts in other countries, including China, while he was sitting in the White House. That's a pretty bombastic revelation. And since none of this was known before now, we have to wonder, why did former President Trump want to keep any of this secret?
Well, so the New York Times is reporting that in their analysis of the documents, he didn't make any charitable contributions when he had said earlier on, or when he was running for president, that he was going to donate his $400,000 a year salary as president.
Right. That revelation is pretty striking. And anybody that just looks at that on its face sees it for what it was, a flat-out lie. But this matches up with who the former president has been throughout his tenure in the White House, as well as in his private life. He's wanted to hide from many eyes. Those are the very people he even said he represented, the people he said who went to the polls for him. He just doesn't align with the picture he's wanted to present of himself as a very financially savvy, as a very wealthy individual. Somebody who is a purported billionaire shouldn't have paid such a small sum over the course of 3 years. And the sum I'm talking about is something like a mere $1.1 million is what he paid over 3 years in the White House, and a whopping $0 in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. That's pretty jarring.
Well, to be fair, the presidential candidates who've released their tax return did so voluntarily. In this case, this was against Trump's will, that they, very vehemently against his will, that they released his tax returns. That's likely to be a point that he's going to make in his 2024 presidential run. Do you think this will have a positive or negative impact on his presidential bid?
Well, that point that you referenced is one that I don't really think will stick. At the end of the day, we have such a short-term memory as an American electorate writ large. I do think his followers will say, well, this is what he had to do, just as like any American wealthy person who's creating jobs as a head of a business. This is what they have to do. And he followed the tax code, or he took advantage of some loopholes that are already there. They will push back and say he did nothing illegal, this was nothing wrong. And so again, I want to say that's a point that I just don't think will really stick around.
Well, let's talk about someone else who's experiencing the fine-tooth comb right now. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Congressman-elect George Santos. He's, of course, under investigation in New York now for misrepresenting his background to voters. The local newspaper in Long Island, the North Shore Leader, was all over the story weeks ago. Why weren't the alarm bells sounded then?
Well, one big reason the alarm bells weren't sounded is because somebody didn't do their opposition research. And that somebody is the person on the other side. Now, was it the candidate himself, Mr. Zimmerman, who was opposite Santos? Look, Santos already had a long shot bid. So there was reportedly some, lack of attention here. But I do think Democrats in New York certainly had a failure here. They could have looked into all of these, not just discrepancies. These were flat-out lies told by the now congressman-elect. Here we sit in a moment where he's going to get sworn into the U.S. House of Representatives next week. Can anybody stop that train? It seems like right now there's a question of politically what went wrong, but legally what went wrong. So there could be a scenario in which he is actually pushed out. We see he doesn't want to step aside right now. But if he doesn't step aside, he's going to create some really major dramas for the Republican Party in these coming weeks and months. So I do hope he steps aside, but I certainly don't think he will, because he's put on the veneer of Trump and said, these are things that I didn't do wrong. These are people that are saying I did wrong, but I did nothing wrong.
Right. If he were to go and you were to have a Democrat appointed in his place, then that would bring the House majority, Republican majority, down to 3. You have that right?
That's right. And, look, that makes it already challenging for future Speaker McCarthy. He already has a caucus that doesn't seem to be in lockstep with him. That's something that's rather abnormal for this modern era. He's going in with some really high unfavorables from his caucus. I think we will see as Speaker McCarthy get seated. But how he deals with somebody like a Congressman-elect George Santos, that remains another issue. I'm not sure he knows also what to do. I believe Republicans right now in the House of Representatives are staying mum on Santos because they just don't know what to do. There has not been a political scandal that has a parallel like this in the recent year.
Big challenges for him in the new year. It'll be so interesting to follow all of these stories because they're not coming to an end with the end of this year, the end of 2022. Political commentator and strategic consultant Rina Shah, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Thank you for having me.